Good morning, and thank you all for coming. This morning, Alison Redford finally did the right thing. Over the last several weeks, since resigning as Premier, it became apparent that she could no longer do the job she was elected by her constituents to do. Rather than cling to a job she was unable to perform and have her constituents suffer the consequences, she did what was right. The people of Calgary-Elbow will now have the chance to wipe the slate clean and elect a new MLA to represent their interests. And while we certainly disagree with a great deal of Ms. Redford's policies and her conduct while in office, we recognize the sacrifices she made to represent her constituents as an MLA and all Albertans as Premier. That should not be overlooked in all of this. With Ms. Redford no longer in caucus, the PCs will undoubtedly attempt to convince Albertans that all of their problems were her fault and hers alone. Ms. Redford might make for a convenient scapegoat for the PCs now desperately trying to cling to power. But the fact is, not a single one of them had the guts or the integrity to stand up to her. Where was Doug Horner when the air fleet he was supposed to be watching over was repeatedly abused? Where was Thomas Lukaszuk, her deputy premier, who has suddenly found his backbone, when it became obvious that her spending and travel habits were an affront to taxpayers? Where was her entire cabinet when they approved her gigantic salaries and sweetheart severance packages for her senior staff? By remaining silent in the face of such abuse, each and every one of them must wear Ms. Redford's record. It is a record that is indistinguishable from the PC party. We saw clear evidence of that last week when 3 months after Ms. Redford resigned as Premier, they sat around the cabinet table and they quietly lifted a 3-year salary freeze for their senior political appointees, boosting their salaries by 7%. With or without Ms. Redford, the PC culture of entitlement lives on. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Carrie, what do you want to hear from Ms. Redford? She says she's not going to be saying anything more. She submitted her letter to the editor or op-ed, and that's it. So what would you like to hear from her?
I'm not so sure we need to hear any more from Ms. Redford. I think she's made her position very clear. But the PC party as a whole and this government has a lot to answer for. The fact of the matter is that Ms. Redford was able to act in this manner because it's been acceptable after 43 years of being in power. And especially in the last 10 years, the culture of entitlement has just gone so over the top that no one even questioned this behavior.
So does this change anything in the way of a criminal investigation once the AG report comes out tomorrow?
Well, certainly the timing of her resignation is very interesting. One can only imagine that it can't be any worse than what we've already learned, but it is possible. And we're certainly looking forward to hearing what the Auditor General has to say. It doesn't change our position. If there were actions in there that need to be criminally investigated, we stand by our original stance, and we will continue to ask for that. So
if the government doesn't open up an investigation, you will march down to the RCMP, as Anderson said? And
we stand by that position, absolutely.